Well, as long as I'm being self-indulgent about Richard Ford, I thought I'd share an old post. This is from Monday, November 10, 2014. It was called Frank Bascombe Returns. And as I was saying, I pulled this book off the shelf, Independence Day by Richard Ford, a novel, every July 4th. I've been doing that since 1995 when it was first published. It's a very special book to me because I happened to have been reading that at the time that our first daughter was born, and recently hunted up an old photograph of her in her little crib and me alongside reading Richard Ford. Anyway, here's that old post, Frank Bascombe Returns. And I have some more explaining to do. On the evening of June 27, 1996, I strolled a short distance from the convalescent facility in Nashville's Green Hills, where my wife and I had come to visit her grandmother. The old Davis Kid Booksellers store was hosting one of my favorite writers who'd recently published the second of his Frank Bascombe novels, Independence Day. John Banville, a novelist, astutely hears Ford's Bascombe as a relaxed existentialist who's read his Emerson and kept his sense of humor and style through more than his share of adversity. His authorial voice from the start has been that of a relaxed existentialist. He recognizes the essentially contingent and slippery nature of our being here, and the necessity to maneuver our way through the world as best we can. Emerson, again, from his great essay Experience, we live amidst surfaces, and the true art of life is to skate well on them. That from The Guardian. That's the voice I heard at Davis Kid that night. Ford read, we spoke, I told him how much I admired his work and how inspired I'd been by a particular passage in The Sports Writer, his first Bascombe book. I was then, I thought, permanently done with academia, back in 1996. The passage in question. In my view, this is the one I read in the previous video. In my view, all teachers should be required to stop teaching at age 32 and not allowed to resume until they're 65 so that they can live their lives, not teach them away, live lives full of ambiguity and transience and regret and wonder, be asked to explain nothing in public until very near the end when they can't do anything else. Explaining is where we all get into trouble. And that's how I acquired a now ironic inscription in Independence Day to Phil, who didn't wait too long to get out of the classroom, etc. And we got that in the post, and here it is in the book. So the irony is that about a month later, I decided to crank up the PhD machine one more time. I finally got that degree, thus paving the way for my return to the classroom and to this very class, in fact. I've been there ever since, trying never to forget the value of ambiguity and transience and regret and wonder, or the trouble awaiting all who explain too much in public. 18 and a half years later, and this was in 2014, so we're well past that now, but at that time, 18 and a half years later, I'm happy to report the life and the career have been real after all, more real anyway than I thought possible back in 96. Davis Kid is gone, alas, but Richard Ford will return next month in 2014 to Parnassus Books on the other side of Hillsborough Road with his latest Bascombe saga, Let Me Be Frank. Ford and Bascombe understand about life's funny contingencies and unpredictable twists. I'm sure he'll sign appropriately again. I wrote in 2014, and the next month I did go to see him at the Parnassus sponsored event at the public library. We chatted a bit at the signing table. And, oh well, that's a nice coda to our earlier discussion. See you tomorrow.